Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're back with another how-to video. So today we're going to be doing front and rear struts on a 92 to 96 third gen Camry. So already got one side knocked out, so we're going to go ahead and run through the steps on the passenger side here just to show you guys the essential steps. So let's get into it now, guys. All right, guys, first up here is we're gonna get this brake hose loose from the strut assembly itself. It is a 12 mil. I'm just using a 12 mil with a 1/2 inch drive. Broke it right loose. And we're just gonna back this out and get this bolt out. And then that'll free this hose up from the strut assembly itself. All right, so we have our brake hose free from the strut assembly now. Now we're gonna focus on these two big bolts that hold in the strut assembly to the knuckle. So these are 22 mil. What I'm gonna do, and you don't have to, but I'm gonna start off by just heating these up a bit with a torch. Believe these are the original, and I just don't want any can of worms being opened on this one. So heat always helps make everything come out easier. We're gonna heat these up real quick with a torch, back them off with an impact, and we should be able to shoot these both out with no problem. So let's do that now, guys. All right, guys, so we got those heated up with the torch. Don't need to leave it on too long. So this is a 22 on both sides. Unfortunately for me, I somehow lost my 22-inch wrench, so we're gonna be using an adjustable here. So I'm just gonna put an adjustable on this side, lock it in, and I'm gonna take an impact, and we're gonna shoot this thing right off. So right out, guys. So we're just gonna do that for both bolts. All right, guys, you can see we got this other bolt loose here. Now what I'm gonna do is take a low profile jack and just put it underneath of the bottom of the knuckle just to give us some support. So when we take that bolt off, the whole knuckle and brake assembly doesn't go flying. So this thing is pretty hot. I just torched it. All right, got that out. Let's get a punch in here. There we go, guys, got both bolts out. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on to these top nuts. All right, guys, so these three nuts holding on the strut mount to the top of the strut tower are all 14 mils. So just breaking them loose with an impact. See, she's moving. So what we're going to do is just take each one of these off one by one, and when I get to the last one, I'm going to hold the strut body from the bottom while I guide it out to the top. So let's do that now. I did let the knuckle fall out of the way just to give me enough room to drop the whole assembly. Just want to be careful of the brake hose. We got our old strut assembly out, guys. So let's get this back supported just so she's not flopping all over the place. Let's get a little bit of pressure under there. Now we're also going to be replacing the sway bar Endlinks. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Endlinks right now. All right, guys, so these sway bar Endlinks are actually 14 mils. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna first hit them with an impact just to help break these up and get them loose, and then from there I'll show you exactly how we're gonna get these off. So let's take an impact. All right, that's broken loose. Get this thing out of my way. Okay, they're both broken loose, guys. So now they'll be loose, but they're gonna spin inside the end link because the actual threaded body, it spins with the nut. So this actually has an Allen key in the middle of the stud. So what you do is take a 14 mil ratcheting wrench. We're gonna put it right around the body. Take our Allen key and put it in the center of the end link stud. Okay. And then you just proceed to back the nut off. So this Allen key is holding the stud in place in the end link, and then I can just slowly back off the nut. There it is, guys. We got our end link out. So now we got all our parts out. We can go ahead and start with the reassembly. All right, guys, we are on to the reassembly. The first thing we're going to do before we put in the strut and the whole assembly and bolt it down, we're going to put in our new end link. So got our new end link. We're going to go ahead and guide this through. And it might take a little bit of maneuvering because these are new. They're going to be set perfectly straight. You know, they do bend and move, so you might have to move the body of them around just a hair to get it to fit in the correct orientation of the control arm and the sway bar. But I think I'm going to let loose a little bit on the jack. Yeah, there we go. And I let loose on that pressure, and it gave me just enough, you know, guidance to get this in. So we're not going to tighten these down yet, but we are going to start the nuts on them. So the end links come with new nuts. We're just starting these on here. Okay, we are going to torque these down last after the strut is in position. Okay, but we are going to get these started just to hold this in position. Okay, guys, now that the end link is on, we're going to go ahead and move on to the strut assembly, get this aligned, and then we're going to torque everything to spec. So let's go ahead and get this strut in. All right, guys, so we got our new strut here, as you can see. So what we're going to do is guide this thing up into the strut tower. And then what I'm going to do is start the threads with the nuts on the top. So pretty much got it in. It's aligned. So now I have the studs coming through on the top of the strut tower or the strut mounts. And we're just going to go ahead and start all of these nuts to hold this in place while we connect everything back to the nut. Alright, guys, so now we have the nuts holding in the top of the strut. What we're going to do is guide our knuckle into the knuckle mount of the strut. This might take a little bit of finagling, and you might have to use your jack. There we go. Alright, guys, we got them started in. A little more trouble with this side than I did on the other. But... Alright, guys, so we got both of those bolts started in here. So now we're just going to go ahead and start threading on our nuts on the back of these, and then from there I'm going to just shoot them in with an impact lightly, and then we're going to torque them on. So actually these went on finger tight, guys, so that actually worked out pretty well. We'll probably just torque them from here. First we're going to go ahead and torque our strut mount 3 nuts, then we'll torque our 2 bolts holding into the knuckle, and then we'll torque our sway bar last. So let's go ahead and get into torquing everything to spec, guys. Alright, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get these nuts on the strut mount flush. So I'm going to start them with the impact. Let's get them going. Alright, we got them all started with the impact. So now what we're going to do is torque these to 59 foot-pounds. So the torque spec for these is 59 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and get these torqued. Alright, guys, we're going to go ahead and torque our lower 22 mil knuckle bolts holding in the strut assembly to the knuckle. Now these bolts are 156 foot-pounds. Okay, that is the torque spec. So what we're going to do is just throw our adjustable on the nut side, and I'm going to go ahead and take a torque wrench, and we're going to torque on the bolt side to 156 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and do this now, guys. All right, guys, we got our knuckle bolts all torqued to spec. So now we just have to get our end links in here and torque to spec. Now, What we're going to do is I'm going to start these off with an impact real quick, and then I'll torque them to 29 foot-pounds, which is the torque spec for these nuts. So let's go ahead, start them off with an impact, and then from there we can torque them to spec. Alright guys, so the torque spec for these is 29 foot-pounds. So we're just going to ease both of these on with the torque wrench. It's 29 on that one. We can get to this one, yep. There we go guys. So we got those torqued, this torque, the upper strut mount torque. Last thing we need to do, and this will be completed, is just get our brake hose back on to the strut body assembly. And all I'm going to do is just finger tight this in, and then I'm just going to give it a nice little turn with a socket, and that should be good enough to hold that in there nice and cleanly. So go ahead and get that in, and we got the front done, guys. All right guys, we are on to the rear. So to get to the top of the rear strut mounts, they're essentially right here where the speaker is. We need to take that rear deck out. So first thing we did is popped out the rear seat. See, this just pulls right up, so you can pull the rear seat right out. All right, so now we need to take these side cushions out, and these are a 12 mil. And I'm just going to use a ratchet, just get right on it, back it off. Should come out relatively easy. All right, so once we get this out, we should be able to slide this cushion right out of the back. So let's get this threaded out, and then we'll get the cushion out. All right guys, we got this bolt out, freed up this side cushion, and if we drop the back right up and out, just gonna have to work it around the seat belt. All right, so we got that out, guys. We just gotta get the other side out now, and then that'll essentially give us access to our rear strut mount. So let's go ahead and get the other side knocked out now. All right guys, so now that we have both sides of our little side cushion that goes next to the back seat, the upper back seat out, we can go ahead and start getting to the rear deck. So we're just gonna pop these plastic trims out. So got that one out, just mounted right up top here. Be able to just pull it out, and then that'll free that up. And the next thing we're gonna do is just take 2 Phillips that'll allow us to free up the rear deck. And I'm on the fence if I'm going to just leave the rear deck in or not, but let's go ahead, take these screws out, see how much playroom we have, and then from there we can see if we're just going to leave the rear deck in or not. So let's remove these 2 Phillips and see where we're at, guys. All right guys, so we got our Phillips out. It's giving us some playroom, but not really enough, so we're going to just keep on removing this rear deck. I'm going to take these side rear plastics out. All right, get that out. See if we can get this thing off here. Yep, we're just gonna let this slide on down the seat belt. There we go, guys. She's pretty much free. So we just gotta remove the third brake light, and then from there, this should just pop right out. All right guys, we're just gonna disconnect that harness, and then we should be able to get the rear deck out. All right guys, so as you can see, we got the rear deck out. It wasn't too hard. We got access to our rear strut mounts. So now we can go ahead, get these dropped, and then we'll be able to actually torque these to spec, because we have the room for a torque wrench now when we go to reinstall. So let's go ahead, get this positioned, and we're gonna go ahead and start getting these rear struts out. All right guys, so now that we have everything disassembled in the rear, we have access to the rear. We're going to go ahead and get everything on this rear strut so we can go ahead and replace it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with this 12 mil bolt holding in our brake line here, and then from there we're going to go ahead and disassemble everything else. Alright guys, so I'm doing the same thing with this bolt as I did with the front. I'm just going to go ahead and take a ratchet and back this off. Don't need to get too crazy and overstimulate it with a impact. So with a 1/2, this thing should break loose pretty easily. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out, and then we can disconnect the brake line. Alright guys, next up is our knuckle bolts, the 2 big knuckle bolts holding in the strut to the knuckle. These are 19 mil, so it's a 19 mil nut and a 19 mil bolt holding this in. So we're going to heat these up just like we did with the front quickly with a torch, and then we're going to go ahead and hold one end with a wrench and then impact the other end. So let's go ahead and get these bolts out now, guys. Alright guys, so this is the same deal as the front. So we are going to take 19 mil wrench, hold on to our nut side, take the impact. This is a 19 mil. Got it right out. Alright. So we're just going to do the same thing for the bottom bolt as well. Alright guys, so we got that broken loose as well. We're going to pull that actual bolt out in a second here. So we're just going to move on to the end link. So instead of trying to remove this bolt and removing the bottom bolt, we're just going to be replacing everything. We're replacing the end link and the strut. So we're just going to leave this connected to save ourselves some time and, you know, messing around with that bolt. We're just going to disconnect the bottom. So this is the same thing as the front. We're going to put an Allen key in the stud and then have a ratcheting wrench on the nut, and we're going to back this off, and we should be able to remove this with the whole strut assembly. So let's go ahead and get this bottom nut out so we can go ahead and get this whole thing out. All right, there we go guys, it's coming off. We're just going to go ahead and back this nut off this end link stud, and then we can essentially remove the whole end link with the strut body. All right guys, so we got that end link free. So we're going to come up here now to our strut mount nuts. Let's go ahead and take an impact to these real quick. Oop, I don't think I was on it. Alright guys, she is free. She fell down a bit, but now all we're going to do is take this bottom nut out, and it should allow us to pull the whole strut out, guys. Here it is guys, here is our old rear strut. So now I'm ready to go ahead and put the new one in. Alright guys, so we got our new strut here. So now we're just going to feed this in, and we're going to get it securely fastened with the new nuts on the top of the strut mount. Alright guys, so we have the nuts up top holding in at the strut mount. So now we're going to guide this in. Hopefully we can get her to fall into place here. We're going to throw these lower knuckle bolts in. Just want to take a little bit of finagling as well. There we go. Okay. Alright guys, so we got these in. So now we're going to go ahead and get the nuts started on them. So put these on the opposite side. Now what I'm going to do is we are going to torque these down to spec as well. First, we're going to lightly hit these with an impact just to get them securely fastened in. So just get them a little tight here, and then we're going to move on. Alright guys, we got them started. So now we're going to go ahead and take our end link and start this off. So sliding into the strut here. So you might need to bend this around a bit just to get it into position, because these do come relatively evenly straight, which they're probably not going to be when you go to install them. All right, got it lined up, and we're just going to start these Endlink nuts for now. So we're just gonna finger tight these, and we're gonna torque these when we have everything else torqued down. So we got that started, Endlinks in. We have our lower bolts in. We have our lower strut bolts in on the knuckle, and we also have our studs in. So now we can go ahead and start torquing everything to spec. All right, guys, so we're gonna start our torquing sequence with the top strut mount here. So I'm just gonna start these off with the impact like I've done everything else. All right, now these are 36 foot-pounds. We're gonna take a torque wrench and torque each one of these strut mount top nuts to 36 foot-pounds. So let's do that now, guys. All right, guys, so we're just torquing these lower strut bolts on now to go to the knuckle. These are 146 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and get these torqued in, and then we're going to finish off with torquing our Endlinks in, guys. All right, guys, so we have our knuckle bolts all torqued down. So last thing, we're just going to get our sway bar Endlink torqued down here. So if I can start it off with an impact here first. All right, now guys, we're just gonna go ahead and torque those to 29 foot-pounds, and we should be all good. All right, guys, we got everything torqued to spec. The only thing we're gonna do now is we're gonna guide this brake hose line right back into the seat where the strut is, and we're gonna go ahead and finger tight this in. And I'm just gonna take a socket wrench like I did in the front and just tighten this down. Same way we took it off, we're just gonna tighten it down with the socket wrench here. All right, she's in, guys. So we are fully reassembled here. And now the only thing we have to do is reassemble our rear and put the back seat and the rear deck and everything back together. And we have officially replaced our front and rear struts on this '96 Toyota Camry.